Hello and welcome, I'm Oles Gerjuk and you're watching Head to Head with UATV. The Ukrainian Orthodox Church held an enthronement ceremony for its first Metropolitan Epiphanius and Saint Sophia Cathedral in Kiev. Representatives of the Ecumenical Patriarchate as well as top Ukrainian church and state officials attended. The enthronement completed all of the procedures that affirm the Autocephaly of the unified Ukraine's Orthodox Church. Now, Metropolitan Epiphanius officially assumes his duties. To talk more about the meaning of this historic event, we are joined in the studio today by Lyudmyla Filipovych. She's the head of Religious Studies Department at the Institute of Philosophy. Hello and thank you for joining us.
Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So, Ms. Filipovych, this enthronement completes the creation of the United Orthodox Church, right? What is next? What's going to happen after this, and how will this new church function?
You're right. This is some kind of the finishing of this process, but only as an official process. And now I think that the church have to build maybe even a new structure and especially a new functioning in Ukraine like a church. Mm-hmm. Because before this church we have no such experience and not such examples. It's a very difficult process because we could combine different forces from three different churches, and they have their own traditions, how to manage, how to live, how to believe.
Yeah, that's interesting. How will the managing system work? Because three churches, they united, so probably they would need a representative from each one, so no one is...
Yes, I think that they have these representatives, especially in such government organ like Synod, and today I saw the representative from the past Moscow Patriarchate, this is Metropolitan Simeon, the representative from the Autocephaly Church, Makary, and from Kyiv Patriarchate. At first they need to communicate, to begin their dialogue, because before this process they have no possibility to talk even. They have their own interests, very conflict maybe between them, because they divide the believers, and this is the main. Now they have the same believers, and they could not divide into three different parts.
You mentioned that this was just the completion, basically, of the official procedure of granting autocephaly, but probably there are some issues that will be resolved, right? So what changes are awaiting Ukrainians as parishioners? What changes will they see and face on the liturgies, different church services? How will it differ from the past?
I think that maybe the theological problems and especially the liturgy problems, they do not solve this time. Now, the main problem is to solve the administrative structure of these churches, because you
set up borders.
Yes. No. Could you imagine? In one village, we have, before this united process, we have three temples which belong to different jurisdiction. Yeah. Now we need to decide who is the main, or how to combine these three temples. Mm-hmm. Who is the leader, like the eparchia leaders, and many others. Who are the main, for example, director of spiritual academy or spiritual seminary, and many others questions. Now they need to decide how territorial divide the different parishes and the structures on this territory.
Mm-hmm. Well, we remember that Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, he called on the priests from the Ukrainian churches of Moscow Patriarchate to join the newly created Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So how many parishes of this Moscow Patriarchate do you see are willing to join or have already joined the newly created church?
I know about 200 parishes.
Approximately,
yes.
After 1.5 months only.
Yes. And what about the future? I'm not sure that this process will be very intensive. No, because
you don't think so?
No, because we could decide to unite to a new church, but how you could change your mind and the type of your thinking, because we need to begin from the, we say from the egg, yes, from the beginning. We need to see on the world and our relations with another people from your point of view, from such point like the united church, that we are the equal, all is equal in this church. It's very difficult to recognize another believer's equal me.
Well, speaking of this enthronement ceremony that I introduced in the very beginning, who was attending this ceremony and how important it is for Ukrainians? What does it mean for Epiphanius?
Different agencies, information agencies, they did not see the representatives from the Orthodox churches, from the Ecumenical Orthodoxy. But I think that the main...
So no one from Istanbul?
Only one church will were presented. This is Constantinople Patriarchate.
Okay.
That's all. Nobody else. But I think that this process and this internalization was very important at the first time for the Ukrainians, for us, because we need to see our Metropolitan on the throne of this Metropoly. And after this whole process, I think that we will see how another Orthodox churches begin to recognize the Kiev Metropolitan. But we need time for this process.
But you mentioned that only representatives from the Constantinople, which is Istanbul, they only came to Kiev to witness this process of enthronement, excuse me. So why didn't others come? All the representatives from the other churches, how many, 14?
Yes, you're right. Some of these churches, I know that they even have no idea to come. For example, Moscowski Patriarchate, Antiochia, Polish Church, maybe another one. But I think that this process finished the creation of our church in very, very quickly time. It's not the problem to come later and to communicate with the leader of our church, with Metropolitan Epiphanius. As I know, the Orthodoxy tradition knows such tradition to send the letter about your position and invitation to come to Kiev and to communicate with the new leader. We will see, and we will wait for this, for this visiting from another Orthodox churches.
So in your opinion, this is not a bad sign from
the
other representatives? No. Okay. Well, was there any safety threat for these representatives to go to Kiev nowadays? Because we know that Ukraine is torn with the war, and maybe there were some safety measures that the clergy couldn't visit.
Right. I think maybe it was the main idea why another representatives did not invite it to this procedure.
And what about the recognition from these other 14 representatives of all the Orthodox churches around the world? Should we, how long do you think this process will take, and how positive would be your forecast?
Yes, it's very important for believers of Orthodox Church in Ukraine to get such recognition from another churches. But now the main for us to start the process of really uniting of these three parts of Orthodoxy in Ukraine. So we need to begin to live in a new condition according to a new statute.
Okay.
Try.
Well, thank you for your clear answers, and thank you for being a guest today in our studio. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but that was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
That was Lyudmyla Filipovych. She's the head of Religious Studies Department at the Institute of Philosophy. Thank you for watching Head to Head. I'm Alice Gerjuk. Goodbye.